Impemba and James Grande.
What's going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Preview Show. It is Thanksgiving night. James and I are here recording for the 8-game Friday slate. James, it is Listener League Friday. We'll have the link for the Listener League in the description and in the playbook here for Friday's main slate. 8 games coming out of the Turkey Day. How are we feeling, man?
It's an interesting slate. Some big totals involving teams that have been involved in some massive game environments and point and just everything involved lately. So should be another good slate. A lot of star power on the slate. Jokic, Giannis, Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Edwards. So a lot of fun heading into this Friday. After evening slate. I know there's a couple afternoon games as well.
Yeah.
We'll have some
full day Friday, Black Friday here. Maybe we'll see some discounted contests over on DraftKings as well for this main slate. Be on the lookout for that for sure. Let's just jump into it. Top game totals that we discussed here to get Detroit, Indy. We know the Pacers have been playing at ridiculous totals of late. They have not disappointed the last couple of games. Obviously, the Atlanta Pacers game went for over 300 fantasy points. Now we have 300 points. Now we have Detroit and Indiana here with a very nice total, one that's going to have a lot of eyes on this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, 249.5 implied points. The only thing is Detroit's been so bad that Indiana's 8.5-point favorites. I don't know if Detroit just makes shots, they can stay competitive in this game because Indiana's not looking to defend anybody. They're just looking to outscore you. So maybe Detroit's a little better with Jalen Duren officially off the injury report. So, 249.5 points implied in that game. Clear biggest number on the board. I mean, 246.5 is no slouch in Washington, Milwaukee. But that game, John, 13.5-point spread. San Antonio, Golden State, not bad. 233.5. 10.5-point spread with San Antonio on the road. Popovich can't yell at anybody in that crowd. Those are the only really notable totals. I guess 230.5, depending on where you're looking. Sacramento, Minnesota, 3.5-point
spread. Yeah, and that one's nice because again, the other games, the large spreads as we talked about, but then we have 217 total Chicago, Toronto, 211 total Miami, New York, 216 total Denver, Houston. So not nearly the game totals as the other ones. The other ones all have 10+ point spreads basically. So you got to sort of manage either below expectations or play some games that aren't expected to score as many points. So we'll see how we break it all down. Again, we got the 8 games here at the point guard position. We have Halliburton now up to 11K, deservingly so. Guys giving you 60, 75, 19 and 25 minutes against Orlando, then 78 and 65 the last 2 games against Atlanta and Toronto. You're seeing those game totals here for the Pacers as well. 263 points last time out. The 309-pointer against Atlanta. Philly went out there and gave you a 160 or 158. And then the game before that, they gave you 163 or 263 rather. So some ridiculous high totals in these Pacer games here, just resulting in a lot of fantasy points between these games.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder. People weren't really playing him. Like in that Atlanta game, he was severely underowned for what that game environment was. Yeah. What are people going to do about a guy who's now 11K that we're not used to seeing at this price? I'd be interested to see the first run of ownership tomorrow morning to see if people are going to get to Halliburton. I love him in this spot. I have no problem getting there because of what we've seen. I mean, in all of the last 4 games in which he's played a full complement of minutes, it's been 60+ fantasy points. So he's still getting us. There's still a ceiling at 11K.
Yep, I agree with you there for sure. How do you approach the rest of this point guard position? I mean, Dame Lillard against Washington, we saw what these teams were able to do in their last meeting. Ended up being a big blowout for Milwaukee. We know Giannis had a ceiling game here. Steph against San Antonio, De'Aaron Fox against Minnesota in a tough spot.
I mean, it's not the best position. Like Fox is now priced appropriately. I mean, we've been saying he should be around 10K. Here we are, and he's coming off back-to-back like pretty poor outings. Obviously, he has a ceiling, but not the easiest spot. You can get to Fox in tournaments. I just really am not getting to Steph Curry at this point, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon while he's still priced the way he has been, especially with a non-Scott Foster official game. Chris Paul is going to be back and taking all the peripheral stats. So 9,700 just feels a little too rich for me. And you can get to Lillard in tournaments. He's been really good. 27 plus points in 4 of his last 5 games, 44 plus fantasy points in 4 of the last 5. And was a 70-point ceiling mixed in there. So if you want to get to Dame, it's more of a tournament play, but I'd be okay if that's where you settle. If that game stays competitive, I mean, there's a chance for like 260, 270 points like we saw the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, but in that game, I mean, he had 39 fantasy points in the 33 minutes there, so certainly didn't pay off the tag, but we know what could be for a ceiling here.
Right.
Mid-tier plays, again, not great necessarily for game totals. You do have James Harden against the Pelicans here. Again, another strong performance for him. You've been touting him since Westbrook went back to the bench. Are you willing to play the $8,100 Harden here against the Pelicans?
Yeah, I don't hate it. We didn't mention like this game in terms of Vegas because it's 224, but it's a solid game environment. New Orleans is 7th in pace. The Clippers are 20th. Like, it's a pretty solid pace up spot for the Clippers. So I don't hate it. I mean, they just look a lot better with this lineup. It just is what it is. I think we both realized that that's probably what was going to happen. Now 3 straight wins with this starting lineup. Now 2 against the Spurs, sure. But this is a good test against the Pelicans. He will see Jose Alvarado defense, I'm sure, at times. But he also won't see Herb. Like, Herb's going to have his hands full with PG and Kawhi. So 8-12 free throws. We talked about this a couple slates ago. When Harden, even when he's not 8 for 11 efficient, he can be 3 for 7 because he is elite at getting to the foul line. Like, he is one of those guys that has always been like that. So I have no problem getting back to James Harden at 8,100.
Cade at point guard only here. 49 fantasy points last time out against Denver. I don't think many people saw that game coming. Granted, that was the one where Joker got ejected.
Mm-hmm.
Pacers matchup, though, right? How many people get to Cade Cunningham at $7,800?
I would assume a lot of people. My guess is people also could just say like, well, I could play Cade at 79, but I also could just play $5,100 Jaden Ivey point guard shooting guard, right? Who was also a top prospect for this team. So like, I like Cade. I definitely don't like the fact that he lost the shooting guard eligibility. That kind of stinks a little bit. Because why does Jaden Ivey have point guard, shooting guard if Cade's going to only have point guard? I feel like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they're both starting. But, I mean, Indiana's number 1 in pace, but with a bullet. It's not even close. And they are dead last in defense. So, like, you'd be silly to just, like, poo-poo Cade 7,800 just because he loses position eligibility.
Agreed. Jordan Poole maybe has found his stroke lately. Back-to-back 30 and 24 actual point games against Milwaukee and Charlotte. Again, a big team total here. Played to 33 minutes against Milwaukee, hit all of his shots, had 30 actual, but just 34 fantasy points. The prices are on the way up again. Do we think Poole's shooting continues, or is this a fade for you?
I would say that if you think the game can stay competitive, you play Jordan Poole because he's been scoring. If you don't think the game's going to stay that competitive, I don't know if you need to go there. So Milwaukee's interior defense has definitely been better. Their guards still just can't defend anything. So if I were to get exposure to Washington, it's probably going to come from the guards here. So I'm okay with Poole in tournaments, but not a core play by any stretch for me.
I mean, we'll talk about Brook Lopez in a moment, but you called him out on the Wednesday show, rather, as a guy we should be paying attention to, and he had himself a pretty big game there. Guys down more in the mid-tier range, any of these guards jumping off the page to you here? I mean, I guess if Levine is out, we have to give Kobe White some serious consideration here.
Yeah, he didn't have, like, big numbers going into that game without Levine on the floor, but, he did have just a ceiling shooting night, 7 for 12 from 3. Like, I don't expect that again, but he's made 4+ threes in 3 straight games. Kobe White has. So if that's something that can continue, 42% from three, I don't think it will, but if it does, there's a ceiling for Colby White. 36 minutes, 34 minutes last two games. Those have been nice. So yeah, I mean, Colby White's fine. Probably the guy I would get to in this tier. I don't hate Tyus if you think the game can stay close. I like the Tyus minutes lately. 35, 26, 30. He's played 30 in 3 of his last 5 games. All those games, he's been pretty productive. We know Tyus Jones is like a pretty good fantasy producer. So again, if you think that game can stay competitive, Tyus Jones is in play. But like, I guess, what do you do?
Ivy's out there, right? So
yeah, I mean, Ivy is like for sure. I think probably one of the highest owned players of the slate.
Yeah, I bet tomorrow we see him 30+%.
Yeah, I would say 30% that's a good safe projection. It's one of those things, right? Jaden Ivey has been slightly under a fantasy point per minute this year. When you're facing like a Pacers team with a massive pace up spot and the worst defense, like you can safely project him at 1 fantasy point per minute, right? And if he plays 30, you're getting 30 fantasy points to 51. Like that's good. Then $100 less if Bam and Duncan Robinson sit. Are we chasing Kyle Lowry? Do we think that Kyle Lowry could?
Not against the Knicks, I don't think. Not really my spot I want to go up against.
It's not my favorite spot either. And truthfully, it might be better to just punt Josh Richardson at 41 if you're gonna play a Heat.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Martin is 4K.
Right.
I mean,
is Caleb Martin a point guard eligible?
No. Okay. No, just speaking more so to like the position. I think he's shooting guard.
Okay. Yeah. I was about to say they are really
no, but shooting. He's got the goated Elge here, shooting guard, small forward. So
true. Well, we'll get to Caleb. Don't you worry, Caleb. I saw the minutes. We saw there's a couple guys we're going to talk about here with minute bumps here, John. But Caruso 48 probably.
Yeah, you know. I mean, I play Caruso every slate, and they don't touch his price. So I'm going to keep running Caruso out there because he's going to have a ceiling defense game that's going to pop him for 40. If he just keeps giving you the scoring and the rest of the numbers, if he just stays consistent with this, which he's certainly capable of doing, there's going to be a game where he has like 3 blocks, 3 steals, or like 5 steals or something like that.
Yep.
And will pop off for a ceiling of, almost near 10x sort of production there. So I like Caruso a lot. Podzinski, 23 minutes. Anything in there for you?
No, it was a blowout.
Okay. Anything else down here for you?
Alvarado. So the minutes went from 15 to 19 for Jose Alvarado, 3,700. If he's going to start playing into the 20s with McCollum still out, I mean, it's not the worst idea.
Right.
He is a...
Does he eventually just take over like Daniels or Hawkins and just
probably
start?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Hawkins has already moved to the bench. Daniels saw his minutes really slice 28 minutes. Not that 28 is bad, but he was playing... We saw like 41 minutes not too long ago. Hawkins played 20 last game, so you can already see Najee Marshall and Jose Alvarado back, and these guys are already losing time. So
right. Anybody else down here for point guard value?
No, not that I see.
All right, moving on over to the shooting guard position here. Then Paul George, $8,800 just keeps being the dude.
Yep.
Certainly go ahead and throw him in there. Edwards 87, Ingram 86.
I'd be okay getting to probably any and all of them.
Okay.
Ingram ran into some random foul trouble last game. Not going to really hold that against him.
All right. Vazel came off the bench for San Antonio there, $6,400. Clay's been knocking down some shots. He got Monk at 61 and Herder at 62. Price bumps for them there. How you feeling about the mid-tier range shooting guard?
The Sacramento stuff makes no sense. So I'm acting like they don't even exist.
Does it make no sense, or are we both to get like De'Aaron Fox ruled out or something? Like
yeah, I mean that just doesn't make sense unless something. If no news happens, you can just ignore them completely and pretend like they don't exist. Like the Clay thing is interesting, but he's still, even at this price, still like 5x. So I know there was probably potential for more in that Phoenix game if it doesn't get out of hand and in Golden State just plays 15 guys. But like, I mean, yeah, like if Buddy Hield starts again,
yeah.
I mean, dude,
Neesmith is questionable. Nembhard is questionable.
Like if he's starting, he's another one that is in a 250 total, and is obviously on the low end of the pace. But like even that was the Toronto game, right? There was 263 points scored in a game where he's on the shorter end of the pace spectrum. Like it doesn't matter if Buddy is shooting the way Buddy is shooting right now. He's like a 7K player. If he's gonna play, if he's gonna play over 30 minutes and shoot this way, he's a 7K player.
Agreed. I do think it's funny he was up over 6K all this time, like really not paying it off. They finally dump him below 6K and they put him in the starting lineup, and he's just knocking down every shot. I'm with you there. I agree. I think he's fine. Mathern's still coming off the bench. Hard to really trust that spot for him there. We talked about Ivy already. We talked Caruso. Then we got down, and I mentioned Caleb Martin's down here at 4K.
Yeah.
26 minutes. We know the minutes are going to start coming up for him at some point here. If guys are out again, gotta like it.
Great. Nothing else. Like great eligibility, great minutes. It just shows you like this guy is a key member of their team, and if he's going to get up to 26 minutes, who's to say he doesn't get the 30 in the next game? Especially if Duncan Robinson were to sit out in this game, you could definitely see another bump to Caleb Martin. I really like Martin 4K. I will just circle back. I wanted to ask you about NAW. Not that I love the price because I wish he was still like floating around the 4K number, but
it's a good matchup for him.
It's a good matchup. The minutes were solid, 30 minutes. And I mean, the peripheral stats were solid. If he gets double digit scoring, we're talking about a guy who could get 26, 27, 28 fantasy points.
Yep. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good going there. I know I said on the Wednesday slate I'd rather play Kyle Anderson. I still sort of feel that way, but the actual scoring is certainly higher on NAW.
Yeah, agreed.
Anybody else for you? We haven't talked about, I guess.
No.
Okay. Small forward. Scotty Barnes 87. We talked PG already. We talked Edwards. Butler 83 against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. DeRozan, Levine, I guess will depend on what happens with Levine here. Keldon 71, Oscar Thompson in that great pace game total game at 68. Like, what are we doing the front half of small forward?
Yeah, so like Scotty Barnes is definitely interesting, but he's definitely slowed down. Obviously, 50
Indy gives everybody ceiling games.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he gets 50 in Indy and you're like, oh, well, it's Indy.
Siakam had like 70. So.
Yeah. So Butler is really interesting here to me if Bam's out, because we saw like he just ran the point guard. Like, he played point guard while Lowry was spotting up. He had 1 assist shy of a double-double. Went for 36 fantasy points in 28 minutes, going 3 for 12 from the floor. Like, he wasn't even really getting to the foul line, and that's been Jimmy's, can really get to the free throw line. He's very interesting. I think if Bam and Duncan Robinson are out, I would love Jimmy at 83. And we have, again, now small forward, power forward, which I like from Jimmy.
Yep.
DeRozan got a big bump without Levine. He was the one bull I wanted to play in that matchup against OKC. And he didn't even have like a good shooting night, but he had 13 free throws and had 42 fantasy points. I'd go right back.
He gets to play Toronto here too,
and gets to play Toronto.
Team that traded him away to go win a championship.
Literally won a championship the next year. Poor guy.
We can't win with you. We had to go get Kawhi. Sorry.
Keldon, guess the right Keldon game, and you can win a GPP with him. But if you guess wrong, I mean, he's going to get you less than double-digit peripheral stats. The Oscar Thompson thing is interesting to me, and we talked about this a little bit before we got on air. I don't know what to do with him because, on one hand, you love the player because he's always in like every play. He's involved in literally every play. If it's a missed shot, offensive rebound, Oscar Thompson. If there's a defensive rebound, Oscar Thompson. If there's he just like. The scoring is going down again. He's not making any three-pointers. I mean, he's shooting 13% from 3 this year, which is ludicrous. And there's foul trouble, and now there's like Jalen Duren. What if Jalen Duren gets back to what Jalen Duren did beginning of the year with all the rebounds? And I'm not saying Oscar Thompson didn't also like do well alongside Jalen Duren earlier in the year, But now we're paying $6,800 for him
Right.
when we weren't paying that price earlier. And I get it. Indiana bump naturally is something that we should take into consideration. Yeah. I'm just a little hesitant to go here at the price.
For me, it's just the first time he's been under 7K in about a week. So like you are getting a little bit of a discount because he ran into some tougher spots.
Sure.
But he played Atlanta, who we just said we basically consider to be an equal to Indy in terms of defense and pace. He had 47 fantasy points in that game.
I know.
So,
but what is I'm not saying that
I mean, foul trouble, obviously, he fouled out against Toronto, had 5 fouls in 24 minutes against Denver. So you're limiting him there. You know, the minutes were good with Durant on the floor. He's definitely their starting 2 or 3 rather. So I don't know. I mean, are you worried about like Jaden Ivey more of a high usage play than Killian Hayes? Like, what's your,
yeah, and the points, like we're paying $6,800 for a guy who has scored 10 plus actual points once in his last 5 games.
Sure.
Right? It's like, I'm not saying the peripheral stats can't be there. He's had a massive few block games and a few steal games, and he's a really good rebounder.
I think the context needs to be said there. Like he had 9 in 17 minutes. He had 8 in 24 minutes. He had 9 in 30 minutes before fouling out. So, I mean, now fouls are part of his game. That comes with the risk of a rookie, and a rookie that is a great
aggressive defender.
Yeah, aggressive defender for steals and blocks. But the rebounds are legit. And again, we know what a ceiling can be. If he stays in a competitive game and doesn't get in foul trouble, 47 fantasy points. So I think in a game stack, he might be the lower rostered Piston, and that could be what is a differentiator for you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for tournaments too. Because if he's low owned, I expect him.
People play Jaden Ivey. Maybe they get the Cade Cunningham.
Yep.
The flip side of that game, maybe they pay up for Tyrese, or they get the Buddy Hield, and no one finds themselves on Oscar Thompson because what you said, 3 straight games of under 10 fantasy points. The minutes look weird, and they don't look into the circumstances potentially surrounding those situations, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I think your thinking is definitely correct in tournaments. I'll sit on it, and we'll probably reconvene on the Oscar Thompson talk during the live stream.
We'll be live 5:00 Eastern time, so you can get back to us, and we'll see if our thoughts and feelings have changed on that one. Oscar Thompson, 2 years or more experience. Herb Jones here. 39 minutes in that game, did not hit his shots, but he gave you everything else he did the game before, 24 fantasy. So, you see the floor, you see the ceiling. 3rd straight game without touching his price tag. He's still 6,300 now. Going up against Kawhi, going up against Paul George, a little bit of a different spot here than going up against Sacramento. I'm less likely to go in on Herb here, but he's always a guy that I think is in play because he does just fill out the stat sheet. He does everything.
Yeah, he's insane. He's just not going to ever be a guy that takes a lot of shots, so he does need to be more efficient than usual.
Yeah.
You can play him if you want, but I'm probably just going to play Chris Middleton if it's.
I said he's a 1%er in tournaments probably.
Yeah.
You mentioned going down to Middleton here. Minutes finally got there. 29 minutes against Boston. In a game that Boston was handling for 3.5 quarters. It wasn't until the very end did the Bucks make a run there, but you got another 30 fantasy points out of him if he's under 6K. You and I have said this when Middleton's playing 30 plus minutes, he's a 7K plus player.
Yeah.
And I kept on baiting you, being like, I mean, dude, 20 plus fantasy points since he started playing at 20 minutes. You're like, I don't know if I can get there because he's 6K, 5K, whatever. And we never really ended up playing him. But I was like, there's going to be a game where he's going to just randomly get the 30 and they're not going to tell us. Well, here it was.
Boston.
Was this a shooting night game because it was Boston?
Yeah.
Now, does he play 30 minutes against Washington because they win by 30? That's also a question. But he also had 34 fantasy points in 23 minutes against the Wizards. So knowing now that we have a potential ceiling of 30 minutes, I think it makes him a much more intriguing play here.
And I feel like if you're ramping minutes like this, you're doing you're in like the middle of like, okay, Chris Middleton's played 12 games. He's in 12 number in the 12th game of the year. He played 29 minutes. You're going to continue to like ramp. Like I could see a scenario where Milwaukee wins by a lot and you still get like 26, 27 minutes out of Chris Middleton. And during, like, if you asked me, if you were like, all right, we got word that Chris Middleton's playing 26 minutes in Washington or 26 minutes in Boston, I would have been like, hell yeah, 56, 57 is great. This guy is, like you said, a 7K plus player. He's been like a multi-time All-Star. Like he can score. Like this is a insane third option to have that like we've just kind of like, well, Dame and Giannis aren't really working all that well. But hey, guys, by the way, like Chris Middleton is only playing 20 minutes a night. What happens when he's playing 35 a night?
Right.
Like, it's going to be a different team. If he's playing 30 a night, that's a different team. So
there's like a good chance that the next time the Bucks play, he's like $6,600.
He should, and he should be, right? He should be. So I'm definitely going to take a shot on some with some Middleton lineups for sure.
100%. No arguments with you with me there at all. Any Bruce Brown revenge game for you? Traded him for a bag of balls to
yeah, he probably does not like Detroit very much. The only problem is he hasn't been all that productive and his price is going up. Like it's like
the fact that Buddy Hield's now in the starting lineup just makes me hate that.
Yeah,
not really the spot I want to go to, but
yeah,
just always like to go back to the fact that they traded him for literally nobody.
Nothing.
Was it? Did he get traded for Teltovich? Who was the guy that they dealt? Right? Wasn't it somebody like that from?
Yeah, we could look. We can workshop it.
It was some nobody on the Nets that I don't even think played for the Pistons after the deal, but.
So it was Dezanin Musa.
Yeah, exactly.
He was the 29th pick in the 2018 draft and a second round pick.
Did he ever play? No.
I don't know who Dezanin Musa is.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think so. What are we doing with Jaquez here?
Dude, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Do we know how to pronounce his name correctly?
Jaime Jaquez.
So that's what I swore it was too, but I also just watched another stream that just called him Jamie Jaquez. So
no, it's Jaquez.
I thought it was too. I was pretty sure we were correct on that, but also just the laziness of the other show to call him Jamie Jaquez was hilarious to me. So
yeah. Jaime Jaquez.
Yeah.
And if you want to be like official, we could throw in the junior as well.
Yeah. I was like, didn't even try to pronounce it other than just how it looked. Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Didn't even try.
Dude's been balling, man. We've said about it. Spoelstra just knows how to get the most out of these dudes, and I get it. He's a first round pick. This isn't a Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, random like G League player. Like this is a first round pick of theirs.
Right.
He just knows how to get the most out of the talent that he gets.
He does.
I mean, $5,300, back-to-back 34 fantasy point games. I mean, that's 6-7x return right there. Minutes would have been well in the 30s had it not been a 30-point blowout. Yep. I can't believe they blew out Cleveland without Bam and Hero by 30 in Cleveland, but they did. Now they get the Knicks here. So I think Jaquez is a pretty strong play here at 53.
Yeah, he feels safe no matter what, and it just gets a boost if there's no Duncan Robinson too. Like Duncan Robinson questionable and Bam questionable. Like you could see a scenario because they can go Jaquez at the 4 if they really wanted to. He's a big dude, so
they play him everywhere.
Yeah, so I like the spot quite a bit.
Fine going back to Koulibaly. I know he didn't do much in that Charlotte game. Kind of disappointing. Had the 4 fouls there. 5K prices on the up there, but again, we think he might get some blowout run. High game total on that one. Kyle Anderson, $4,800. Again, a guy I liked the other night. NAW outproduced him, but he got the 28 minutes. You know, he's a guy that more often than not gives you 2+ blocks and steals, gives you more rebounds and assists. You know, again, not a big scorer there, but NAW only took like 6 shot attempts. So, I think any of those guys are probably in play here. Where are you played in flags in the under 5K range?
I mean, I'm definitely down to get to some Kyle Anderson. I don't hate the spot. Eason in tournaments only. I don't love the spot, but we know he's a high fantasy point per minute guy. Actually, I don't know. 4,500 feels a little but he has played 19 and 20 minutes in 2 of the last 3, so that's fine. Caleb Martin, you can obviously play at small forward too. I think the Sacramento development is going to be interesting. I mentioned it to you before we got on air. So Chris Duarte started that game that Keegan Murray did not play. Chris Duarte got off to a quick start, hit 2 threes, had like an assist, and I was like, oh boy, 3,700 Chris Duarte, 7.5 fantasy points in like the first 3 minutes of the game. And then he gets 2 fouls. And then he just was in foul trouble the entire night. He had 5 fouls in 20 minutes, never took another shot, never did another thing fantasy-wise. He's going to start, in all likelihood. He's going to start again for no Keegan Murray. If he is starting, I'm fine going back to it. But the caveat, John, and I put it in the Discord on Wednesday, is that Trey Lyles is back. And if you remember, Trey Lyles, I mean, he averaged like 20 minutes a game last year.
We've been playing Trey Lyles since he was in Denver.
Dude,
so,
Denver.
And we were playing him knowing that he was an 18 to 20 minute a night guy because of how productive he is whenever on the floor. So you don't need and Trey Lyles is what, $3,300. So
I hate that he's a center only. That is kind of like gross. Weird to me that he's center only because obviously he's not. I'm checking
his FanDuel price tag right now because if he's min price on FanDuel, they gave him, probably like shooting
power
small forward, something stupid. Oh, FanDuel has me locked out of my account. I lied. I can't even tell you.
FanDuel has me locked
out. FanDuel always asks me to reset my password.
It does. It is
every time I try to log in there. I'm not even gonna bother.
I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up. I can get there.
Yeah, let me know what let me know what his price tag is there.
Let me go check the. Oh wait, no, can't. Sorry, I'm locked out.
Yeah.
Trey Lyles is a power forward only 4K.
So he's a min price power forward on FanDuel.
Is no 3,500 min.
Okay, almost a min price power.
Almost min price.
Yeah, that's still a really great spot for both.
But that's the caveat I would say for Duarte. Like he can lose minutes to Lyles and he can lose minutes to Malik Monk. Like there's a scenario where he's losing time to both.
6K Malik Monk.
I don't hate getting to like Duarte 3,900 if he's starting. Because I don't like 5 fouls is like
I mean if he starts you kind of have to go there, right?
I mean he fouled out of a game in Golden State where he played 26 minutes earlier this year. He had 4 fouls in a game against Houston. He played 26 minutes. So it seems like Chris Duarte is just like actively out there hacking. And I know he's like guarding, like he's probably, because they've been putting Keegan Murray on the best player. He's probably gonna guard Ant here, which isn't great, but if he's 3,900, I would probably go back to the well, but there's obviously this.
Hope he's starting Kyle Anderson, right? Like,
yes.
Not
or NAW, or I mean NAW, who's just out there to, fill the gap.
Giannis here, power forward. He went for 70 the last time he faced Washington.
Pretty good
in 34 bets. He went 20 of 23. I still maintain that Washington has nobody to defend him. So if you want to play Giannis at 11K, you can't. Before we went live, I made a Halliburton Giannis lineup that you honestly wouldn't hate. So you can get there, believe it or not, with the double spend on this slate. There's enough value. Some guys we'll talk about. And then there's enough like 5K plays on this slate where like you can make it happen. I think I even had Cade in my lineup. So like you can definitely make it work here today to get the double spend if you want. Definitely like Giannis. He's at home here against Washington. Blowout's very real. But as you said, 70 fantasy points in the 34 minutes there last time out. Where else are we taking a peek here? Wemby against Golden State for the first time. Zion, the Clippers. Randall, maybe no Bam. Towns against Sacramento. They're just not touching the Karl-Anthony Towns price tag, $8,400 again here. Siakam in a slow-paced game, but that man is breaking slates right now at $8,200. Yep. So, like, talk to me, man. What are we thinking about the power forward tonight?
It's a good spot. Wemby, he's coming off one of those Wemby ceiling games where he didn't take a lot of threes and coincidentally has a big game because, he just has an unfair advantage.
7 of 7 to the line, dude.
Yeah, just an unfair advantage when he's close to basket.
You should. You see how much Giannis goes to the line, and Giannis can't shoot free throws. Wembanyama can. So like he should be getting to the free throw line as much as Giannis gets to the free throw line.
He should. And it seems like when he does, there's good things happen. And so I like Wemby here in tournaments. Probably not going to play Randall against the Heat. That's a very, very bad paced environment. Zion's been fine. 38 plus fantasy points in 4 straight, but we're not getting like any price reduction on Zion. So I think what you said about Towns and Siakam are the spots. Towns 84. He's playing massive minutes. He's been super productive everywhere. He's an elite basketball player at $8,400. And they're fake again. I think last year it felt clunky. This year it does not feel clunky.
Towns used to be like a 10K guy, and then they got Gobert, and they were like, they just didn't
know how to play together, and now it's like Gobert is back to being the best defender in basketball, and they're just like, go score, Karl, and go do whatever, and he is. Siakam's interesting. I will say, for what it's worth, Kuzma has just had some weirdly insane games the last few. One rebound shy of a triple double last time out, 60 bomb.
I don't know what bomb the game before. Is it Jordan Poole's hitting shots and Kyle Kuzma's the one passing the ball?
I mean, he has the ball a lot. Kyle Kuzma has been the one guy I think throughout the year that we've been able to like trust on Washington, like minutes, production, whatnot. The scoring has been there pretty much every night. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to get there, but it is worth giving him a shout coming off 50 and 60 back-to-back. Siakam is obviously a great play. Kawhi is a little interesting, 81. It feels too cheap.
Are we playing Denver at all against Houston or no?
I feel like I've been trying to keep people away from like the Houston thing because they're very good defensively. I mean, they rank 4th defensively, but not only do they rank 4th defensively, they're 28th in pace. Like, they just play so slow. It's very, I'm not saying like you can't have a big game in that setting, but like if I was to play anyone, it's Jokic, and that's probably the extent of my Denver exposure.
Sure. Moving our way down here, Portis is 6K, Denny at 6K, Beef Stews at 55. And we've talked Jaquez already. Anybody down here in this mid range?
Yeah. I mean, this range is yuck.
What did Bobby Poe do in that blowout? 23 minutes, had 30 fantasy points, basically the ceiling for him at that price.
Yeah, he's 6K. That's the issue. Like, we're getting, I would say, like, based on injuries, it's like the Pacers guys, Toppin and Neesmith.
We'll see. Neesmith had started, obviously, against the Atlanta, went 25 minutes, 6 of 9, and then he got ruled out. So we had Obi Toppin back-to-back games, now 34 and 36. Being the guy, we maybe had hoped he would be with this team.
Yeah.
So, $4,900. I think Obi, again, in a really good spot here against Detroit. Just, again, getting exposure to this game, I think, on a slate like 8 games is going to be a popular play for sure.
Naz Reid, $4,300 would be firmly in play.
Big price drop, obviously, at what we were paying. Now he went 39, now up to 43 again. But for a guy that was over 5K for a period of time,
You like the minutes, too. No Jaden McDaniels. Not that I think Naz is, like, directly correlated, but 22 minutes. We've been playing 18 to 19 every night. And then, obviously, if there is no Levine, we're playing Pat Williams. 3,600, played 37 minutes. Okay, not like a massive ceiling, but he started earlier in the year. He had 30 shots. Yeah, missed all the shots, which is also not a surprise because he's not a very good scorer. He's shooting 33% on the year, but he's a good enough fantasy producer that you would play him at 36 if you're starting.
Probably better reason to play Caruso if Levine's out again, truthfully.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Anything else down here?
Nah.
Nobody really who got the precious minutes. I saw like Otto Porter played like 10 minutes. Boucher only played like 10 minutes in that game. Like,
they just played
just played them all game. Like, what did they do?
They played the starters just massive minutes.
Yeah.
which hasn't really been the case, and then like Trent, and then just a bunch of
I know when Achua got ruled, I was like, oh, maybe we both were like, oh, maybe Boucher, and it's like, no, of course not.
10 minutes.
The new coach still hates the same player. Nobody likes playing.
He played less.
Nobody likes playing Boucher. I don't know why. Center position here. Obviously, Joker's 12-9. We'll never not tell you to play him. If you want to play him, go ahead. Probably not paying 10-2 for Sabonis in this spot against Minnesota. That feels like a potential floor game on its way there in that spot. Then a lot of guys we have discussed already. Anybody we haven't talked about in this first half that you're keying in on?
I mean, you can obviously play Şengün. It's not the best spot, but Jokic is like, you can score on Jokic. Will he score on you and put you in foul trouble is obviously another concern. But Şengün, you can play. Vucevic was fine without Levine. 41 fantasy points at 7,600 would be more than okay. 6 of 13, you assume you're probably, if there's no Levine, you're probably getting more than 13 shots from Vucevic if you run that back. So 7,600 is okay. The Miles Turner's minutes, I will just never, ever, 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 ever get right, because the Atlanta game, they decided, screw it, we don't need centers in this game. We'll just play small. Took him off the floor. He was smashing. Toronto, he's having a really good game, 29 minutes. 29 minutes, but then you see games earlier in the year, he plays 37 against Milwaukee. It's like, why? I understand they have a big front court, but I don't know. I guess Turner in tournaments, Gobert has been
68.
Dude, he's good. It's just a matter of foul trouble one and another guy that they need to give minutes to. But the Clippers have Zubac, who probably matches his minutes. I feel like you can, and they've actually been giving Tice runs. So maybe we do see a ceiling minutes game out of.
I mean, this was a blowout. He played 21, but 34, 30, and 28 the 4 games around it.
I actually think he got hurt too in that first Sacramento game.
Sure.
Or maybe it was the last Sacramento game. There was an injury in one of those 2 games where he left and came back too. So maybe that's also a cause of it. But yeah, I mean, Valanciunas is such a fantasy player.
He's the guy we've been like, why aren't they playing him? Why aren't they playing him? And it seems like they might be playing him a little bit.
Sure.
$6,800 definitely good price. Zach Collins obviously in good price. Jalen Duran not on the injury report. I mean, what version of this guy shows up here?
And he's the best player in the NBA in 3 games.
He opened the season. You couldn't find a better player. Then got benched, got hurt,
got in foul trouble. It was a mess. Yeah, it was a mess. It's a good spot.
Yeah, it's good pace.
It's just a good spot. If you want to get to Jalen Duren fresh off the injury, by all means.
Pirtle's there. I'll just give you the kudos on Brook Lopez, man. I mean, 28-7 here against Boston, 34 minutes. Another big game out of him here. Washington, he had 38 fantasy points and 5 blocks in that game.
Yeah. I mean, he's just doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't we're not gonna sit here and be like, yes, I expected Brook Lopez to score 28 actual against the Boston Celtics. I did not. I didn't.
But you did call him out that he had spoke to Griffin and told him he wanted to be on the floor more and all these things, and the minutes were there like they've been, and the production has since followed with the minutes. So
and he has in the game he has a ceiling scoring game. He has a floor block game because he's been blocking multiple shots every single night, which was part of the course last year too. So
the Celtics don't go to the rim. They don't shoot threes.
They don't. They do shoot a lot of threes. I'm good getting to Brook. I mean, there's clearly a ceiling there, especially if the scoring is coming around too.
Gafford got a price correction.
Oh, weird. I wonder if
never made any sense that he was $4,200.
I mean, dude, we literally said it. I think I asked you the question, if he goes for 40 and you don't have him, you lose. He actually went for 40 and had a ceiling across the board. Yeah, across the board.
Probably doesn't have 16 rebounds again.
No.
But he's been good. I don't know if you want to run it back at 55, but he's been good.
He's been weirdly staying out of foul trouble too. And I know I just jinxed it, and I know he's going to get in foul trouble. But even in that game against Milwaukee a few games ago, he didn't get in foul trouble.
Why is Zeke Naiji?
Here we go.
Why is he 48? Why is he 48? What's the deal?
He's why the last 3 slates 49, 47, 48 for no reason whatsoever.
No reason at all. Jalen Smith played 19 minutes, gave 15 fantasy points. It's probably it, right? I'm not gonna do anything else down here. I'd love to. Love
Tice.
15 minutes.
What about Tice?
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, I got a couple things. There's actually a lot of interest.
Where's Orlando Robinson at?
He's 3K.
Yeah.
So that was my So here's the thing: Miami, Bam is questionable. Kevin Love is off the injury report.
Right.
And I guess I am sad that he's off the injury. Not sad. It was a personal reason. I'm happy that he's back for whatever he's back from.
We assume Love gets those minutes, right? At least
Love had been the backup center.
Right.
Here's what I would say. I think that if this game is without Bam Adebayo, Kevin Love starts, Thomas Bryant is iced out of the rotation, and Orlando Robinson is the backup center. That would be my guess. Because
does that make you play Mitch Robin this game?
Possibly. It's not like, but
I mean,
possibly. It's not like the Mitch Rob thing is never going to be like whoever the other person is. He's never going to score more, right? That's never going to be. You just have to like guess when Mitch Robinson's going to like not get in foul trouble and get double-digit rebounds and block multiple shots.
Love is a very passive defender.
He is a very passive defender. He's also a very good offensive player still in terms of fantasy points per minute. I mean, he's 16 minutes per game this year, 19 fantasy points per game. So, like, if Kevin Love were starting, I would have a lot of interest there. But I'm telling you, I think Thomas Bryant would be fully out of the rotation because he was. Right? Like, Kevin Love's been it's been Bam and then Love. That's been their center rotation. So, I think Robinson would be the backup center, and I would.
Daniel Tice here.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Tice is
20 minutes the last 2 games since he's been in their rotation. I mean, he got signed. What was his first game? Was that his first game with them?
Yeah,
the 17th was his first game. So he played 10 minutes in his debut, got his feet wet, and then 21 and 20 minutes the next 2 games against San Antonio, and gave you a ceiling rebounding game and a ceiling scoring game. Not even stretching the floor, but I mean, double-digit shot attempts too.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. And Valanciunas is a big body. Like, he's playing against Valanciunas Nance on the other side of this game. Like, there is a case to be made because Zubats doesn't play 30 minutes, right? Like, Zubats plays, it's like a 28-20 split, which I can see.
We used to always play the backup center with the Clippers. Montrezl Harrell, Hartenstein, even when he was with them, like, we used to roll those guys out. Plumlee, like, we had no problem playing the backup centers with the Clippers all the time. He has a low floor. We'll 100% agree on that. But I mean, we've also played Daniel Tice. I mean, he's not a scrub. The guy's been in the league for a while now, and has been a guy that can produce. So,
dude, look at the last 2 games. If you want to, he's cheaper than he was. He's cheaper than he was last game. By the way,
Daniel Tice was once the defensive player of the year in the European League. So.
Also, we'll say Trey Lyles is also, again, just have to mention it, 3,300 center only for one reason or another.
Yep.
I just cannot see him being ever a center only.
I agree. Well, again, he's also doesn't play center, so don't think like, oh, he's backing up Sabonis. He's not. It's like
I just don't understand.
He doesn't really play that position. So, all right, let's build. Where are we starting? Going
Caleb Martin, Middleton, Jaden Ivey. Like, just get the value out of the way early.
Sure. Ivey, Martin.
I feel like we were pretty confidently. Do you think these are like when we wake up in the morning, like these are like 4 of the top 10 highest owned plays of the slate, probably?
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're gonna be all like pretty highly rostered. I see a scenario where they're all like getting rostered. No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I feel like we've pinpointed the value like pretty early.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. All right, what's our spend here?
Let's go with either Halliburton or Jokic.
All right, Halliburton.
Let's go Halliburton. He's been you could put, I would say, move Buddy to forward and just put Halliburton in the guard.
Yeah.
because there's a lot of really good mid-tier center or power forwards that I think we can still afford, like the Butler, Towns, Siakam range felt really, really
There's
good.
times there is 5150 for a center and a util, and we had. I mean, if we just wanted to do, you think Tice or Lyles? Do you have a preference?
Either.
I mean, go Tice. That gives us a $6,700 util.
If we wanted, and then that means if you wanted Lyles, just for context, you have 7K.
Right.
So like you could build with either of those. Not that it matters unless
you want Lyles gets us Oscar Thompson if we want to just get more exposure to that game. So just an example on it for everybody. Gets the $200 left over. Yeah, Ivy, Martin, Middleton, Towns, Lyles, Halliburton, Heald, Oscar Thompson. Again, you can move some guys around to get there if you want. Any final thoughts here for the people at home, James?
No, we'll be back at 5 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be in the Discord all day answering any and all of your questions.
Check out the link for the Listener League. Everybody get in the Discord. We'll be back at 5. Talk to you then.